the stuff of nightmares. There's been an invasion down under. Good Lord.
Yikes.
As Australia has recently become besieged by a plague of mice.
Oh, it's horrible, isn't it? We're joined now by farmer Anne Cullen. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us today. So just seeing that footage there, it is truly shocking. And this is the stuff of nightmares, but it's been a reality for you and for many, many people over there. Tell us when it first began, because I think you'd been away and you'd come back in March after a few nights away. What did you come home to?
Well, good morning. I came back into my house and I turned on the light. It was dark and turned on the light. And of course, the mice all come out at night time. So the mice were all over my bed. They were all over the veranda. And they'd eaten through a bean bag. And so there was the bean bags all over the floor. So it was just a nightmare. I thought to myself, what on earth do I do? Well, you can't go and sleep in your car because they're in your car. So I had to find another bedroom that was a little bit more secure. But that night I did have mice running out through my hair.
Oh, my God.
And how bad has it got? Where have they got in your home?
Well, you're sitting watching television and you see them running across the floor. My house is an old house. I've managed to put some steel wool under sort of doors and in spots where I think they're coming in, but you really can't stop them. They've been in the house, but I've put a lot of poison around the house and that has helped. But you're trapping all the time too.
Well, the trouble is also, when you poison them, they're going to die in their thousands, and so it must stink.
Oh, the smell is just absolutely putrid. Funny thing, though, you get used to it. Well, you have no choice. It's absolutely revolting. But you go out, was going out every morning and collecting a bucket of dead mice and throwing them away. But then there's so many under the house, so many around that you don't see to pick up. So that's the stench. And the stench over at my hay shed really was quite revolting. But as I say, you just have to get used to it.
And so why is this happening?
Well, we had this bumper harvest. We had good rain, and so there was plenty of pasture around, and so it created the perfect habitat for them to breed, and they breed so quickly. They start breeding at 6 weeks of age, and then every 6 weeks they have up to 10 pups. So they just breed very, very rapidly.
Well, in 3 months, 2 mice can create a colony of almost 400, and that rapidly spawns into tens of thousands, as we can see there. Now, you said then, I mean, you've worked very hard to get them under control in the house, stuffing wire wool in all the gaps and things, but you did mention there your hay shed, your hay barn. This is a farm. This is,
Yes.
This is livelihood, and
Yes.
and I assume that. I mean, how do you possibly control them in there? They must be running riot amongst what essentially is your livelihood.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, well, when I first went over there in the evening and I saw it, I was just aghast. I couldn't believe it. There was just thousands, and every night I was going over in the evening to put out handfuls of the mouse bait, and every evening I'd go back and see so many dead ones, but then they were all still there. And I thought, well, I was doing this for days and days on end, and I thought, I'm not making a dent here. There just was thousands and thousands of them.
So what is the cost of all of this? Because like Phil said there, this is your livelihood. And I imagine having to buy all of this poison and stuff to put down. I mean, what is this costing you?
I've spent up to $40,000.
Wow.
We had to aerial bait with the planes when our crops were ripening last September. So that's expensive. And then, of course, the loss of my hay, which I think I'll have 80% of that will be gone. And then the cost of the zinc bromide, the mouse bait.
Yeah.
It's very expensive and very difficult to get at the moment because it's in very short supply.
And these extreme nature events sometimes call for extreme measures. I know there's a little bit of controversy because the New South Wales government wants to use the chemical equivalent to napalm to get rid of these. And obviously that could have an impact on environment. It could have an impact on sort of local wildlife, that sort of thing. What do you think about that sort of measure?
Well, we were very happy to hear that the government was actually listening to us, because to be able to get our own grain treated would be less expensive. But I don't think it's been okayed, that particular poison yet. That hasn't been ticked off the list as to be able to be used. But I do believe they are trying to get more of the other one that we've been using, the zinc phosphate.
And so they're saying that by August that this is sort of moving through the country, that it could reach Sydney. I mean, what sort of impact would this have on a city like Sydney? I mean, obviously not crops and stuff, but environmentally for people living there, it will cause huge damage.
Absolutely. Wherever there's food, they'll go. The poor supermarkets have had to throw out so many tons of food. They've had to put everything into plastic containers. It's been a huge cost for them. And when you go into the supermarket, the smell is just dreadful. And they have to clean because of health standards. They're cleaning 3 times a day. So it's an enormous cost for supermarkets and places like that as well.
Has any experts given any indication as to how long this sort of event can last?
Well, we're very worried about the spring. They can sort of go underground now and be breeding, and then we were worried about when we were actually sowing. I was driving a vehicle along behind the sowing rig and putting out my spade over the paddocks, and that was so that they wouldn't dig down and eat the grain that we've just sown. I can see some lovely crops are up, so hopefully we've killed a few out in the paddocks. But the CSIRO, Steve Henry says they're hiding in your pasture paddocks and they're breeding underground, and they're just going to be coming out in the spring when our crops are ripening. So we're very worried.
I bet you are. I'm so sorry you're going through something like this. It's horrible. It really is horrible. I bet you feel kind of powerless to do anything about it.
Thank you, Anne. Thanks for talking to us.
Well, we just got to battle on and keep putting out the poison and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Thank
well,
you.
good luck.
Yeah.
What a nightmare.
Thank you. Good to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
My mum's mouse phobic.
Is she?
Yeah, she won't have been able to watch that.
I was going to say.
And in fact, I didn't WhatsApp her to tell her not to watch the beginning of the show.
Well, you should have
She'll have been
done.
happily watching me. She'll know I'd be thrilled with the Batmobile, and then she'll have sat there, she'll settled down with a cup of tea to watch the show like she does every single day, and up came the mice. She will have there'll be the language on my phone. You know?
Hey, do you want to apologise now? Do you want to apologise now?
Sorry, Mum, for not warning you. We were about to do that.